Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of Cooperative Game Chat. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero, we have a lot to discuss today, so let's just jump right into it. But before we do that, how you been doing?
Doing all right. Over the last week, been playing some Lost Ark, which it's starting to get a little bit grindy. I'm starting to get close to level 50,
Oh yeah.
but the other game that I've been playing around with quite a bit is Vampire Survivor, and that one is very interesting considering how cheap it is.
Yeah, you were telling me before we recorded that this was a $3 game?
Yeah, literally $3. The game is in early access on Steam, and the best comparison I can make for it is it's like if you turn Castlevania into a roguelike bullet hell, um, almost kind of like a twin stick shooter sort of thing. And um, the developers just constantly updating it like once a week. Um, and it's just been just a lot of fun to play. Uh, just from the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop is just so fun, and yeah, just first day I picked it up, I was just like, all right, well, it's one of those cute sort of games. I'm probably not gonna spend too much time on it. Yeah, didn't happen. First day I spent like a whopping 7 hours.
Jesus.
Yeah, 7 straight hours just crunching all the achievements that were unlockable at the time, and then found out that on Saturday afternoon, the developer updated the game again and added some new weapons, some new characters, and added some more achievements to it. And I was like, all right, let me tinker around with it, and then ended up logging in to the game yesterday and got pretty much 3 out of the 4 new achievements, and the last achievement that I'm stuck on just it's more sort of a luck and patience sort of thing because yeah, just it's a difficult one to bang out.
Now, what drew you into the game in the first place? Was it the price, or did you hear some good word of mouth?
Saw some of my friends who had been playing it, and they were sort of ranting about the, oh my god, this game is so good. Don't let the price fool you. It's really good, but yeah, if you love Castlevania and you love the idea of just kind of just um just having your character get really stupidly powerful and seeing numbers get bigger and bigger, then yeah, this game is worth it for $3. And of course, me hearing the price going $3,
Yeah.
no way. That's got to be shovelware garbage. That has to be. That just sounds insane that it'd be a good value. And I was just like, okay, well, you know what? $3, I could do worse, and just bought it and started playing it on Friday night, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna be in this for too long. And sure enough, 7 hours rolls by, and I'm just like, oh my god, I've gotten all the achievements. I'm some sort of terrible monster.
Now, you said the developer is updating this weekly. You said.
Almost weekly, from what I'm seeing.
I mean, I can see why the game looks pretty simplistic. I can't imagine that it takes a while to make assets, but I mean, for $3 to constantly update this, is he making a lot of money out of this right now? Right now, or is this something that's going to raise in price when it's on its 1.0 status?
Um, per the early access disclaimer,
Mm-hmm.
he does say that he's planning to keep the game in early access for about a year, and he's got his own sort of private roadmap of features and things that he wants to develop. And he's also observing community feedback, like on the Steam community forums and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
he's been watching out for it, and he's even going as far as doing stuff like potentially adding a story mode and some other stuff to it. And he did mention that uh, there will be a price increase once the game gets a little bit closer to the version 1.0 release.
I just went ahead and bought it myself. So
Nice.
for $3, why not? I'll sit on it until it. What I usually do with early access games is I'll sit on it until it's finished, and I'll wait until it's finished and then play it. But it's good.
Yeah, I think really what makes the game so much fun on top of the gameplay loop is every once in a while during the enemy waves there'll be an elite boss enemy, and unlike the usual trash enemies that usually die to like one or two hits,
Hmm.
the elite monsters will take quite a beating before they die.
Yeah.
And if your luck score is high enough, sometimes they'll drop a treasure chest, and the game just has just like a fancy little animation of just like a treasure box opening up, just loot spilling out of it, and if your luck is really good, sometimes you can get 5 weapon upgrades, and when that happens, the music just gets more and more exciting. Just there's more like fanfare and visual fireworks going on, and then when you just see the treasure chest pop with five of your sub weapons that have been improved, it just feels so good, and you're just like, all right, I'm on a freaking roll. I gotta keep doing this.
Okay. Now, is this? How do you control the? Is it with mouse and keyboard, or is it something that can be implemented with a keypad or a gamepad?
So that's the best part. So this game supports mouse control, keyboard controls, the use of a console controller,
Hmm.
and touchscreen.
And touch. Oh, okay. So then that's ingenious. So then when this is ready, this can go onto tablets and phones.
Tablets, phones, and the upcoming release of the Steam Deck in the next
Hmm.
couple days. Yeah, just you'll be able to just play it on the touchscreen of the Steam Deck.
To have that feature. How long has this been on early access? Let me see that.
December 17th of 2021.
And it's that fully featured already, and it's on early access. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll probably get into it when I get off of Lost Ark and the other game I'm playing. So, yeah, that's interesting. Well, anything else you've been playing?
Started a little bit of Horizon Forbidden West,
Hmm.
and that game is just a feast for the eyes on PS5.
Okay. But you
But
haven't gotten
yeah.
that far into it.
Oh no, I'm still in the intro mission that sort of just introduces you to all the mechanics and stuff of the game and everything. So
Okay.
still sort of doing that, but yeah, I'll probably have some more thoughts on it, hopefully um by next week and everything.
Okay. All right. Well, I have been playing, of course, Lost Ark. I got to level 50, and I'm at the end game, which we really can't call it the end game because I think that's where most of the time. I understand what you're saying with 40. You're at level 40 to 50. That part is grindy as hell, but
Yeah.
you're gonna spend a ton of time grinding once you get to the quote unquote end game of Lost Ark. Because now I'm at item level 380, and
Mm.
you're basically doing you're continuing the story, and you're doing all these different dungeons and all these different monster raids.
Yep.
So, and you're constantly doing that to get materials to upgrade your weapons and your armor. So that's where I'm at right now. Can't
Yeah,
talk.
because I think the final gear score to get to is I think like item level 1350.
Yeah,
So that's you've definitely just begun on that gear chase.
yeah. That's a tier 3, I believe. It's at right now.
Yeah, tier 3 or tier 4, I forget.
Mm. But we'll stop talking about Lost Ark since we've talked about it for 2 episodes straight. So let me talk about the other game I've been playing. That's King of Fighters 15.
Oh right, that recently came out.
Yeah, I almost forgot myself, and if I hadn't have pre-ordered it beforehand, I probably would have forgotten to get it. So, but yeah, this is definitely a improvement to 14. 14, as good as the gameplay was, it looked terrible, and the online just was atrocious. I only played the single player and some online on 14 because the online was so bad in on King of Fighters 14, but they definitely improved the online for 15 on this.
Yeah, I think 14 was a little bit rough visually because I believe it was SNK's first foray into using 3D graphic rendering
Yes.
for the character designs.
Yeah.
So it definitely showed that a lot of their expertise were in 2D pixel fighters and stuff like that. So I'm definitely with you that King of Fighters 14 was very visually rough. The game was solid, but much like you mentioned, just the online for 14 was terrible because um, I think this was right at the beginning of the fighting game community rallying for more games to use rollback code like GGPO.
Yeah.
And at the time, if I remember correctly, I believe SNK had said, "Oh, don't worry, there's no need for us to implement rollback in King of Fighters 14.
So our
We've
game is
got our
dead
own."
anyway.
Well, I think their excuse was, "Oh, well, we've got we've got some super secret sauce on our delay-based code, and it's just as good." And well, um, it wasn't just as
No.
good. And
No, it
I
was
think
not.
And I think what made things interesting was before the release, some people had played their retail leaked copies and saw that Code Mystics was put into the credits
Mm.
um, in the game, and a lot of people know Code Mystics for their work on retrofitting rollback into King of Fighters 2000 and King of Fighters 98 on the PC releases. So it got some people wondering, hey, did Code Mystics actually build out the rollback netcode that's being implemented in King of Fighters 15? And I believe it was either the day of release or a few days after release, Code Mystics actually came out and clarified. They said, "Hey, we didn't build out the netcode, but we did closely advise SNK on how to build some proper rollback netcode." So definitely not a surprise that the netcode is super solid in this game.
Yeah. I mean, have you gotten it yet, or are you holding off?
Unfortunately, I do not have a gaming budget to pick it up.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
So I want to, as a person who has wasted a lot of quarters on King of Fighters games on the arcade and laundromats.
Mm.
So so for me, I would love to pick up 15, but either I'm gonna have to wait until my gaming budget improves, or if somebody ends up feeling gracious enough to gift it, then I won't be opposed.
Oh, okay. Go that route. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
so, but yeah, just the game looks solid and everything, and just I've seen some of the insane combo videos from people like Maximilian
mm.
and Justin Wong that have posted some of this crazy stuff that they've done. So yeah, King of Fighters 15 just looks super exciting.
I've gotten with the online because I've been playing nothing but online since I got it. I have gotten the the neutral base footsies and the the 2 or 3 hit combos fight players out there, and I've also gotten ones where I've gotten raffle stomped by 20 hit combos on
Oh
casual matches.
no.
It's and it's not they're not uncompetitive. I'm not getting like completely stomped. I'm fighting on my way home, but one mistake and someone can pinpoint it, and I'm getting hit for 21 hits. That's usually someone playing Robert Garcia. So
Yeah,
God, I hate
yeah.
Robert Garcia. But
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a traditional King of Fighters game. Just lots of footsies and spacing, and if you mess up, then it's over.
yeah, absolutely. But I'm excited to see where the next few DLCs go with this. I mean, they've already announced a DLC beforehand. There were two of them actually. That's coming out next month and in the summer, I think it is. So I'm fairly excited for that. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about it other than I think it's a solid fighting game. If you're into fighting games, you should buy this. This is a good game. I will say though, I got it for PS5, and playing on the DualSense is a pain.
interesting.
Like, well, first off, I have an issue with a, what do you call it, with the training mode in the game. The training mode, I have to use the thumbstick because the D-pad is not good for fighting games at all. Like
Oof.
it just this has been with most PlayStation controllers really, but with the way they space out their D-pad as individual buttons, it's hard to get.
Ah,
It's really hard to get the motions working. So
okay.
I use the stick. Unfortunately, in order to when you use the stick, there's a record feature where it would have you record you would play as the second character in a trading mode to do some fighting moves. So
Oh,
whenever I
you're
use
right. So you can record the opponent character doing something. That way you can practice against it.
yeah, which is a good feature. Don't get me wrong, but the stick is so sensitive that if you click it slightly or if it goes down ever so slightly, it goes on record. So those climax combos or super combos that you have to do are almost impossible to do because in the middle of my motion, I'm clicking the stick and it's sending me back into the second player.
Oh, yeah, that is rough.
So I'm now practice right now because I don't have a stick or I don't have a fighting commander for PS5. I'm using my online as ways of training, and another reason I'm getting my ass handed to me because I'm not I can't get combos down really that well, and the three fighters I'm using are pretty tactical based, so that's probably another reason why. Well, not all of them. One I would say is very technical, but I just suck. What am I telling? What am I saying? Oh well.
Yeah. It sounds like for me as an arcade stick player, it sounds like the game is going to be an absolute treat to play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and we'll get off of this. The roster is very good, and the coming from Street Fighter Five, where when it started the roster was pretty poor. It's good that they decided to give a fully fleshed out roster before giving out DLC. I mean, there's and the way that King of Fighters is when compared to normal fighters. Correct me if I'm wrong, but compared to normal fighters, each of the fighters are like 3/4 of a fighter, really, because they're not fully fleshed out as a character on their own. They're kind of, how do I put this? You know, in a fighting game, when you have a character, they have a fully fleshed out kit where there's certain entrances for combos and there's certain enders and ways to get in the middle and cancel and stuff like that. They have
Yeah,
those
yeah.
two. They have those two for these fighters, but there's not a lot of them. And the strategy really is to blend the three that you have to make it difficult for someone to get through all three fighters.
Yeah, and that's definitely the best way to describe. um, King of Fighters, in my opinion.
Mm,
What you want to do is you want to try to build a team that sort of complements complements each other's weaknesses, and then during the versus screen, either mix up your order depending on what your opponent's team is and everything. So I totally get it.
yeah. All right. It's on sale for $60. I believe it's $60 on PlayStation 5. I got the
Yeah, I believe so too.
yeah
And then you have the digital deluxe edition, which comes with the first team pass, which is um, two teams of three characters, so six characters right from the get-go.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think this will sell okay. I don't. I'm not in any illusions that it's going to be a massive success, but I think it's going to sell right. And yeah, and then
Yeah,
this week Street Fighter 6 is announced, which was interesting on the week that the King of Fighters decided to release, but we don't have to talk about that.
yeah. And as far as the sales for King of Fighters 15, it will likely sell pretty solidly in South America and Latin America because those are
Oh,
two areas that the King of Fighters franchises have been super popular there. So I imagine that numbers in those two regions is probably going to be insane. But I will say I am a little bit disappointed because leading up to the release, uh, SNK had posted on the original Xbox Store listing that the game was going to have smart delivery with the original Xbox One,
mm,
and then all of a sudden they completely nixed the mention, and it's just, yeah, we're only putting it for Series X and Series S now, which was a little disappointing because one of my local friends, she was just like, yeah, with smart delivery, it's a no-brainer. I want to get an Xbox Series X later, so I'm just going to go get it on Xbox, play it on my Xbox One, and when I get my Series X, boom, I'll be able to upgrade to the better visuals and stuff. And then when she saw that they removed it, she was like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just gonna get on PS4 and just deal with that.
mm,
So,
yeah.
a little bit sad to see that.
And with the lack of crossplay too, I mean, I really wonder what it would have taken to get crossplay on all systems.
Yeah,
Zero, there was a patch announcement, and we wouldn't really care about patch announcements for most games. But this one is for Cyberpunk 2077, which is their 1.5 next gen patch, and it was important to actually to talk about this because of A, how big the sales were for this game, and B, how much of an absolute clusterfuck the launch was on it.
yeah.
So you you read more about it. Why don't you tell us what the patch is for and what they add in there for Cyberpunk?
So this one is a huge one, and the short story about it is it's essentially the wish list for all the things that should have been in the game day one instead of uh, instead of all the stuff that pretty much just were considered missing from the
Mm.
launch of the game and everything. And it, the big ones are pretty much just the graphical updates. Just the graphical updates are just enormous. Um, and unfortunately, some of the graphical updates are pretty much limited to just um, PS5, Xbox Series X, and uh, I believe PC mostly got all the graphic updates already.
I
Just
would hope
they
so.
had to they had to do some certification to allow it to arrive onto the console platforms.
Mm.
So that was one of the big points. The other big points was the NPC AI has improved massively.
Okay.
Just just so one of the big improvements was just the bystander NPC behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So um, before version 1.5, if you had brandished a weapon like out on the street and started aiming it at people, um, sometimes you just have people just kind of look at you and then just kind of walk away. Like they wouldn't scream or anything. It'd just be like, "Oh, hey, neat, you got a gun," and then they just walk past you. Now, if you pull out your gun and just start pointing at them, some NPCs will react and go, "Oh God, please don't shoot me!" And then some of the other ones who might be a little bit more aggressive, they might even just start a fight with you. They might just go, "Oh, you want to do this?" and start punching at you and everything.
Mm.
So that was kind of cool to see, and so that was a huge one. And then also on top of the NPC AI improvements, you also had difficulty balancing improvements because you had some cases where like you would see like aggressive gang members maybe hassling somebody, and sometimes you could just stroll past them and they wouldn't react. Now they've changed the behavior that depending on your reputation, sometimes some of the little gangbangers that are just sort of standing around will instantly react and start fighting with you, and they'll even get their henchmen and get their henchmen to try to flank and surround you.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, just huge improvements on that. Um, there are additional new weapons added to the game, and these are unique weapons. So
More
things
dildos.
not more dildos, but more things like some characters are now getting like special trademark character guns that are uniques. So that's kind of cool to see. Unfortunately, in some of the patch notes, they do mention, I believe, that the special weapons are only limited to PC and Xbox Series X and Series S and PS5 only,
Mm.
which is kind of weird that you would have that sort of a limitation, but supposedly there's some sort of limitations that it can't be done on a previous gen hardware.
Okay. I mean, if the assets are more detailed, or there's a telemetry reason to why, let's say, a certain gun can only react a certain way without, you know, deforming the environment or whatever, maybe that's why. But yeah, I agree with you. That's a little weird.
Yeah, so there's that, and gosh, what else was there in this giant mega patch? Oh, there are more additional apartments for V to buy.
Mm.
So for anyone who loved buying up all the apartments, then that's something new to do. The hairdressing mirror, I believe, is now working in real time for PS5, Xbox Series X, and Series S, and it's already been implemented on PC. So, because I know a lot of people sort of griped and said, "Hey, that's kind of weird that you have to turn on the mirror for the mirror to actually reflect anything." So
Hmm.
apparently they've done that. Another big one that's real significant is a rebalance of the gameplay, the economy, and the looting systems. Because I believe in the Mega blog post, um, CD Projekt Red had mentioned that uh, I believe that they felt that the game was dropping too little loot, so they had to really take a hard look at the loot economy and just see about just changing things up to make it a little bit more, I guess, more on par with just the economy of things. And I can certainly say that that's a good thing to see because by the end I was starting to run out of gas. Just I would do things like just just challenges and quests here and there, and the quests just weren't rewarding me with enough money to keep up
Hmm.
with doing upgrades on some of my favorite guns, and I'd just be like, well, great. I don't have enough money to upgrade my favorite sniper rifle. Oh well, this should be good enough.
Hmm.
so so the gameplay economy and loot system rebalance, that one's a good one to see. Um, a, a big one for both PS5 and Xbox Series X. Ray tracing on local shadows is now live. So
Hmm.
if you felt the game looked super underwhelming, then this should help with making the game look a little better. And then they've got like a whole bunch of various improvements here and there. Um, one that's interesting for PS5 because it's been implemented both on Xbox and PC is spatial headphone audio.
Oh,
That
kind of like
one,
3D audio.
yeah.
Okay.
So that one is probably going to be a nice treat for anyone who's playing on PS5 since you'll be a little bit more immersed in the environment. So that's probably a big one. And then one that's also a big one on PS5 is the DualSense controller. Actually, now uses the adaptive triggers. So
Mm.
sniper rifles will have kind of like the real world sort of sniper rifle action where there'll be a large take up and then you'll hit like a solid wall and then you have to break through the wall and then the trigger goes click and you'll shoot the sniper rifle and then um, things like handguns will have a little bit of a lighter take up and a little bit of a lighter break and so on and so forth. So for anyone who wants just a little bit more immersion for the gunplay, then the PS5 is the way to go.
Okay. So, are you played? Are you played Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah, I'd actually beaten it back in I want to see either early January or late December, and
Okay.
I'd played it on Series X because I was able to get the disc version from Best Buy for like $15.
Okay. So,
So,
is this going to make you want to play the game again?
um, it's hard to say because just um the game was okay. Really, the thing that was the most fun about Cyberpunk, in my
Hmm.
opinion, was the side quests.
Okay.
A lot of the side quests were just really fun, really engaging stories, and and all that. Unfortunately, the main storyline just felt so disjointed and so weak. It was just like, wow, why didn't you guys spend more time on the main story? Some of these side stories are just so damn good, and you 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 all seem to have taken a lot of care into writing some of these side stories, but just the main story is just so terribly weak. And um, I think the worst part was at least with regards to the main story is that no matter which background you start with, you essentially go down the same path. So you've got the corpo, the street kid, and then um, kind of like the anarchist nomad archetype for your background story. And while you start with sort of a different story with those three backgrounds, after you do the background intro quest, it just sort of drops you, and all three paths follow the same storyline essentially. So, at least for me, I would find it a little bit hard to want to revisit the game. I may revisit the game once they decide to announce the story DLC stuff that they're going to release potentially in the future, but um, that's really just what I can think of. But yeah, there's nothing really bad about Cyberpunk. Just I feel I feel that just if if they had a little bit of a more solid story, it would be a little bit easier to revisit. Unfortunately, so that's my take on it. And additionally, just I would say it's probably a great time to potentially pick up Cyberpunk because I believe on the PlayStation Store, the game is on sale for 50% off, so about $30. Um, I've seen it at Walmart, I believe Target, and maybe Best Buy have the game at about either 20 or $30 for the disc copy, which is a good value for anyone who's um, looking for a new game to play and don't want to spend too much money. $20 is a great value for the game. But yeah, just honestly, I would say that now's a great time to get into Cyberpunk 2077, especially since the 1.5 patch just does so much and is such a vast improvement on how the game feels. And at $30 for a digital copy and potentially $20 at your local video game retailer, I think it's a hard deal to beat. I know I think I personally clocked in about 40 plus hours, and that was with getting um, all three ending routes for the way I played. But yeah, just 20 to $30 for 40 hours of gameplay. That's a real good value in my opinion. Oh, right. Also, another thing to mention is it's been previously mentioned before, but the multiplayer component that they had talked about before the release that has still been written off as canceled because of all the fixing that they're having to do. There's just no way that they were going to have time to work on the story DLC and the multiplayer component. So, unfortunately, even with all the changes that have been added to Cyberpunk, um, things like multiplayer will unfortunately still be left on the cutting room floor. Yeah. So, and to confirm, it is on all three platforms for $29.99 right now for digital copies, and I'm curious on what the physical price is right now. Yeah, so anywhere from $27 to $30 right now for physical copies. So yeah, excellent value right now for anyone looking for a cheap game for not a lot of money.
So, with the game actually being sold for cheaper now, uh, was it worth CD Projekt Red to do this financially in a business sense? Or was this literally just something they had to do because of their reputation?
Ooh, that is a tough one. Mostly because I feel that it may have been them trying to put out the goodwill that hey, we are going to make good on this. We've made good with The Witcher. Everyone knows us from us just putting the effort down to make The Witcher a very beloved game. We got to do the same thing for this game. At least that's my presumption.
My question with this is basically they didn't resell a disc for the next generation or current generation consoles. Did they? You still have to put in. You're using the PS4 discs for the next gen stuff, right?
Yeah, so for Xbox Series X, it is smart delivery. So if you have the Xbox One disc,
Yeah.
then when you drop it in, it'll automatically download the Series X or Series S data and everything.
Okay.
So at least that's easy. The PS5 upgrade process is, as usual, a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. I can't. I really can't believe how stupid it is.
Yeah, just um, it's just so surprising that it isn't something easy and seamless to do on PS5. But hey, I'm not Sony, so
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the patch is out now. Uh, it
yes.
it looks like people are happy with it, but the one complaint that I get that I keep hearing is New Game Plus. It's not there. Is this a game that really needs a New Game Plus?
I think the reason there's the complaint about the new game plus is um, a lot of people do get quite attached to their unique weapons that they have modded and tricked out.
Oh, okay.
I can say for sure I am quite attached to one of my SMGs that literally shoots smart missiles, and
Okay.
I love that gun because it's great. Because towards the end of the game, there'd be a lot of enemies that will try to use cover to sort of hide from being shot at by standard kinetic bullets. So I just aim right above whatever barrier that they're hiding around, or to the side of whatever barrier that they're hiding behind, and make sure that the smart reticle is within range. And then I just fire away, and then of course the smart missiles just round the corner and just kill the enemies. And it was one of my favorite guns in the game, and it's something that you get from I believe one of the side quests. Um, and I think the best part is that the weapon does chemical damage, so it literally just burns them to death with acid.
Ugh.
So yeah, just it shreds whatever armor they have, and I think it's absolutely great.
Okay, okay. So there are reasons to go to New Game Plus on this.
Yeah, so in my opinion, just New Game Plus would be a great feature to see. Mostly because being able to do stuff like carry over the weapons that you may have spent hours and hours just side questing to get cash to upgrade them, and the possibility of being able to keep them, I think it would just be absolutely wonderful to have.
Okay, so let us move on to our final topic. And this was announced by Nintendo. What was it? Friday?
Believe
Like,
so,
yeah,
yes.
like the dead of the night Friday. That the Wii U and 3DS eShops are closing. You have until March 2023, I believe, or there's more specific timings involved. Like I believe August you can't use credit cards, and then March you can't use gift cards. Correct?
Yes. So it's very similar to what happened when the Wii Shop deactivation happened, which was um, it was in stages where at one point credit card transactions to do direct purchases
Mm-hmm.
would be completely disabled, and then after a while, um, gift card purchases would be completely disabled, and then there was a limited while on when you could re-download things, and then eventually Nintendo just pulls the plug.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, and I know you're this way too, as someone who wants access to their purchases when they do it, when they make those purchases. It really burns to get these, and I know to not be able to get access to your purchases in any way. Even if you want to just have access to the file so you can homebrew it, you have no access to it at all. So it just ah. And then Nintendo did it with the Wii about a few years ago. Um,
I
someone
believe it
else.
was done with the DSi store a while back because that was when they were starting to experiment with online purchasing with
That's
some of
right.
the small indie games that were released on the DSi store.
That's right. The DSi store. I completely forgot about. I mean, this is gonna basically mean that the only way to play these games after March of 2023 is with homebrew and with piracy, which I think Nintendo is making a calculation, basically saying we're at a point now where if they do pirate it, it doesn't matter because we're not getting money for them anyway.
Yeah. The other potential equation is maybe we might start seeing some of the Game Boy Advance stuff at some point pop up on the Nintendo Online subscription for Switch.
Yeah,
Um,
but they don't update it too much on that.
yeah. They haven't really updated it too much, but who knows? I mean, there could be something 6 months from now that they make an announcement and say, "Hey, guess what? We've got GBA stuff. Hey, guess what? Um, we're doing GameCube stuff or whatever. Who knows? There's
Mm-hmm.
really no telling." But as a person who's a bit of a video game librarian and who values the ability to archive your games, it's a little bit sad and worrisome to see Nintendo sort of doing this. Especially like you said, just for anyone who wants the ability to play some of these games without requiring a constantly always online internet connection. It's a
Mm-hmm.
bit sad that the ability to do so is going to evaporate right around sometime next year after the March closure date and everything. Uh, Especially if you didn't make the purchase. Uh, I know for me, um, I have some of the Legend of Zelda DS games that I really need to pick up for Wii U because unfortunately some of those DS carts are just really expensive
Yeah.
now. and unfortunately, just the only way to play them is literally just going to have to be me picking up a copy of it on the Wii U eShop, and I believe same for some of the Game Boy Color games, and I um, I don't think that there are really any Game Boy Advance games that were released on the 3DS eShop. I forget.
No,
It's been so
they
long.
had the ambassador program that had some, but
Right.
yeah, but no, they didn't make them on sale. No, they
Yeah,
made
I
Game Boy
got
games and
in.
Game Boy Color games.
Yeah, I got in after the Ambassador program, so I don't have any of the Ambassador games anyhow. But yeah, just for me, it's a little bit unfortunate to see Nintendo do this, uh, and I think really the other potential worrisome issue is, uh, at least with modern consoles, if you have a system battery that dies out, potentially, even if you have the data downloaded, if the servers get pulled offline, then there may not be a way to reactivate your console to be able to access your purchases. I haven't really researched on the Wii U too hard, but
Mm-hmm.
that's my potential concern too, because even if I were to also pick up the Legend of Zelda DS games like Phantom Hourglass and um, Spirit Tracks, um, who's to say that the internal system battery in my Wii U, maybe that goes bad 10, 20, 30 years from now? And what happens then if I decide to go, hey, I'd like to revisit Metroid Fusion or something?
Mm.
And
But why would you?
um, well, I thought Fusion was fun.
Eh, okay.
So, I mean, it would be a real shame to try to boot up my Wii U and then just for the system go, hey, so the system battery died, and we have to reconnect you to the server to reactivate your console, and then to be hit with a, oh, I'm sorry, the servers for this console don't exist. We can't reactivate your console. Bye.
Yeah. Um,
So,
you know what this leads to? This leads
yeah,
to more. It leads to one of two things. It leads to basically piracy and homebrew, or
yep,
Nintendo reselling those games on future consoles or on this console.
yep,
My thing is with the 3DS. I have them. I have them downloaded and everything, so I'm okay. But Pushmo, the Pushmo games,
oh yeah,
those games
yeah,
were fun, and I want to be able to replay them. But they haven't released them since the Wii U. So unless they're gonna re-release them on the Switch at some point, which I don't know when or why they would,
right.
I don't. What can you do to play this game, which I think is one of the best games on the 3DS.
Yep, and then you had some small limited release titles on 3DS as well too. For anyone who is a fan of the Culticept games, there was uh
Revolt,
yeah, Revolt. So
yeah.
so that one was really good for anyone who is a big fan of Culticept. So uh, anyone who bought a digital copy, I'd feel real sorry for them um, if their system battery dies or something, and there's no 3DS server to reactivate their console to be able to play it.
Revolt, Revolt. They had a physical copy of that, right? Oh, that's probably
Yeah, they
expensive.
did.
That
Yeah, yeah. I was one of the lucky few who actually picked up a the limited edition physical copy, which had like all the special physical goodies and stuff.
mm,
So I haven't looked up the price on that, but I imagine that collector's edition is probably exorbitantly expensive at this point.
okay.
But I know it's been kind of interesting because I believe the Video Game Museum Association put out a giant PR statement, sort of blasting Nintendo about this, and I mean it's a nice little gesture for them to make the statement about it, but ultimately Nintendo does what Nintendo wants.
Oh
It
yeah.
um, that's just how it is. And I say this as a person who loves Nintendo stuff, but at the same time, I also gripe about Nintendo too.
No, I'm a big Nintendo fan myself. I started playing video games on Nintendo, so I have like that's almost 30 years. Jesus.
Oh yeah.
30, 35 years. But yeah, business wise, they make some questionable decisions. But here's the question I have regarding the business side of this. Do we have any idea how much it costs to actually maintain the store and maintain these
Uh,
servers? Because uh, for a multi-million dollar company, I I don't see how I see scaling down the store. I see maybe closing the store but keeping the downloads up. But I don't see closing it all down.
yeah, as far as the server maintenance cost, unfortunately, that is all likely proprietary information because I've been curious on some of the store maintenance costs and things like that
Mm-hmm.
when the Wii U or excuse me the original Wii store was being closed down
Yeah.
because you had a whole bunch of people who were like, hey, just they had some virtual console stuff that you cannot rebuy on the Wii U or any other platform, and it got me real curious. So I tried to research and see how much it would have cost for them to just sort of either leave the store up or leave it to just um, the ability to re-download purchased items and everything. And I couldn't find a single thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, there's no telling on how much the server cost is. Um, while that being said, with me putting on my IT professional hat, um, I could potentially see it being quite cheap if they have a small virtualized server on, say, something like AWS, and just have that strictly just only doing re-downloads for anyone who has legitimately purchased anything from the eShop.
Mm-hmm.
And um, AWS prices are super cheap just for like small sets of servers,
Yeah.
and even then, there's no physical hardware to maintain. It's just all virtualized servers and everything. So it's likely not expensive, but um, someone in the accounting department probably was just like, nope, we think this is still too much money, so just kill the service after X amount of time.
Yeah. I know with the 3DS you can back up the files on PC because I had to do that. I have a folder with all my 3DS downloads, so I know you can do that. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can do that with the Wii U though.
Um. Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think
Mm.
all of the game files are backed up onto the console's SSD, and um, I think the only thing that you can put onto the SD cards from the SD card slot up in the front of the console is, I believe, game save files. I could be wrong about
Mm.
that,
Okay.
but if you homebrew the console, then at that point you can install a hard drive, and then you can just back up everything to an external hard drive at that point.
Okay. I mean, this was inevitable, as disappointing as it is. I
Yeah,
just,
I think it was either Polygon or Kotaku. Somebody had said that they had gotten an anonymous Nintendo employee tip from their secured email box saying that apparently Nintendo plans 10 years out from when there's a sales slump on their console on a potential retirement date for the console's digital downloads and everything. So, uh, I guess apparently 10 years ago from now was when they deemed that the 3DS and Wii U were no longer selling as hot as they used to, and they were just like, okay, so um, 10 years from this date, we will make the announcement that we are shutting down, and and the shutdown will be 1 year from our announcement date. Supposedly, so. But again, it is an anonymous tip, so it could either be legit or it could just be someone masquerading as a legit Nintendo employee. I can't say for sure because the reporter naturally doesn't want to reveal their sources and get the person fired. So I'm just kind of taking it with a grain of salt. But in my mind, it does sound plausible.
Yeah, there's not much more to say about this. I mean, without knowing exactly the pricing on the servers, or just making the... Why not make the downloads... I don't know, they would still have to emulate the... I was going to say, why not make the downloads available on Switch, but you'd have to emulate the Wii U and the 3DS on the Switch, which probably is impossible right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I would love for just Nintendo just to sort of put out like a final firmware to say, okay, we're going to push a final firmware. This final firmware will allow you to just log into your Nintendo account because we will still be maintaining your Nintendo account, but your console will no longer have to re-verify with the eShop app in order to authenticate your system. That way, in the event that, let's say, you have a failing battery, like what's going on with my 3DS console, because my battery is so far gone that I need to go buy a replacement for it.
Yeah.
That way, just in the event that this happens 10, 20, 30 years from now, I can get a new battery, slot it in, and not have to worry that my console has to ping the eShop in order to reactivate itself and see the purchases on my micro SD card, because unfortunately the 3DS does require you to authenticate the console in order to see the save games that are on your SD card. So that's the reason I would like to see a final firmware that just says, hey, there's no more need to ping the eShop. What's done is done. The store's down. Whatever. And I'd like to see something like that for the Wii U as well too. But knowing Nintendo, it's not going to happen.
At this point, what can you do? I mean, you have a year to make the purchases that you want. Well, less than that, really. You have a certain amount of time to make the purchase that you want and to make the downloads that you want. And then, that sucks.
Yeah, so pretty much you have until August if you don't want to have a balance on your eShop account that then has to carry over to your Switch account. Okay. So if you don't want to have like a balance just kind of sitting in your Wii U and 3DS account, then you need to make your purchases before August, and then after August you'll have to go through the option of, hi, we aren't allowing direct purchases on the credit card now, but you can buy a 3DS Wii U gift card. How much would you like? 25, 50, 100?
Yeah. Ugh. Well, that's something. All right. Well, Zero, that does it for this episode of the Cooperative Game Chat. Tune in next week where we'll be discussing many more things going on the gaming industry. For that, I am the Wiz.
I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next time.